Welcome back, everybody, to the From the Bench podcast. As always, I'm your host, Eric, with my co-host, Trevor.
What's going on, everybody?
And we're back for another episode. So, hopefully everybody's excited to, listen to us again. We got not a whole lot to talk about. We're just going to ramble on, kind of spitball through this episode, have some points. Don't worry, there is paperwork here with some notes to go off of.
Speak for yourself, homie. No paper notes over here.
Trevor is completely just, winging this one, which is fine.
Living the dream.
Living the dream is right. What did you?
It's all up there.
What have you been up to the last couple days? Obviously, we're off by a couple days from what we usually record. Usually we record near the start of the week. This is obviously Wednesday. We coming out Thursday. What have you been up to this week, Trevor?
There's been some fishing going on. There was rumblings, and then it happened. As you can see, I don't know if people can see, but there's some redness going on here. I got one side's really red, the other side's kind of normalish. It was totally worth the pain. Wish there was a little more bass biting, but didn't get skunked. We got a couple, and we had a hell of a time. It was a little windy out, but the sun was out, so made up for it. And, Eric, you don't always got to catch something, bud. You just out there, just something about throwing the line in the water, and there's just something about it, man. It's just so relaxing. I enjoy it every time.
But it makes it way better when you are able to outfish the old man, though, right?
Oh, for sure. He got me this time. Shout out to Ronnie Ward. You got me this time, bro. But there will be a next time, and I'm coming for you.
Yeah, and you did beat him with the biggest fish, though. So there is that.
Right.
So
my fish was bigger, Ronnie. My bass was bigger. Come on.
Go. You can go home with a bunch of 4s, or you can take home an 8. Which one would you rather want? So, so we're gonna go past that.
Hey, Eric, on that note, 2 4s make an 8. Come on. Oh,
this is also true.
That's bad.
Yeah. So past that, I know you touched on the car a little bit and everything else, but it's becoming the time of year that it's becoming nice out. Nobody wants to stay inside anymore. We all want to get outside. The only thing we're really missing is sports. So that's part of it. We are going to have a little bit of sports coming up. Not so much the sports that we talk about on here. Through all this, you're looking at this weekend. You're going to have the UFC. They're getting back at it. Big card. You got Tony Ferguson. You got all those guys. UFC and Dana White were talking about doing, a show on the island, on a deserted island a couple weeks ago, but they kind of brought everybody in. They all did the swab test up the nose. From what I saw a clip of Tony Ferguson doing that earlier, and that's the way they're doing this to try to, obviously they get back the results pretty quickly the next day. I think as long as everybody's good, keep on going, right? So, and then NASCAR. They're going to be having, same as UFC, without fans. They're going to be opening up on May 17th, which is, pretty exciting for a lot of people. I know there's a really big following when it comes to NASCAR, right? So that's big for them. You're a NASCAR guy, right? Right, T?
Yeah, I do watch NASCAR. I have followed a couple guys now. I used to be a huge 2-4 fan of Jeff Gordon. Now I also like Dale Jr., who doesn't or did, but
yeah, he's out now.
I still follow a couple guys. I like Chase Elliott, and I like a lot of Hendrick boys. I hate to say it. I'll give a shout out to a Ford driver, Joey Logano. I don't mind Joey. I like Joey. A little aggressive to his game. Likes to rub the paint. You know who I don't like? Kyle Busch. What a loser. Anyways, he wins a lot. It's like the Patriots. But of NASCAR, but he cries a lot too. Oh, it's great. I love it too. Oh, this guy did this to me. I love it. Dude, are you for real right now? You're a grown man.
Robin's racing.
Okay? Lose with some class, man.
Yeah, if Days of Thunder has taught us anything, it's Robin's racing, right? So
that's right. And Nicole Kidman. Shout out to Nicole Kidman. Damn, girl, you still got it going on. And we're way past the Days of Thunder. Anyways, got a little off topic there. What else we got going on, Eric?
Past that. So we did have an announcement yesterday. Trevor obviously wasn't aware of this, but there is the first North American Sports League has come out with an idea, and they actually announced that they're going to have for their season this year. They're actually just going to do like a little championship bracket, and it's going to be over 3 weeks. And that is the the Premier Lacrosse League, which is a field lacrosse league that came out last year, was their inaugural season. They started with 6 teams, had some of the they were kind of with field lacrosse. Before last year was the MLL, which was a big league. It was terrible. None of these guys, lacrosse is one of the oldest sports. It's a huge sport in a lot of spots in the U.S. College programs all over use it as a big, big sport. And, as soon as you get out of college, though, or in university or whatever, right, throughout North America, that's it. There was nothing. Like the MLL, all these guys had second jobs. They were trying to, make it work if possible. But it was really kind of, they didn't like it. So one of the players and his brother, Paul Rabel and Mike, they came out and said, look, we're going to start what's called the PLL, the Premier Lacrosse League. And any player that's interested, we're going to have health benefits. You're going to have a higher salary. We're going to allow you to, wear whatever gear you want. And that's going to bring you to, give you more chances for other forms of revenue, right? Like you think of like Sidney Crosby and some of these big guys that have big contracts with CCM. I think Crosby's first contract, first endorsement with CCM and Reebok, it's a multi-million-dollar deal. He's 18 years old.
Just on that alone, he's set for life.
Yeah, and I know Paul Rabel had the founder of this. He had a really big deal with the company that he was, in line with. He had a really big deal with them, and that was part of his. But that's not everybody, right? So they kind of came out. These guys they do a lot of social media and everything else. But they came out with, coming off topic there, but they kind of came out and they said, look, we understand we're not going to be able to do our typical season. Their season was a little different anyways because they didn't have any cities. So it wasn't like the, Boston, I think for them, it's Boston Cannons is the MLL team. The PLL didn't have it. They just have named the team. So it's the Chaos, the Whipsnakes, the Redwoods, Archers, Atlas. They just have teams, and they did tour models. So they started last year in Boston. They played in Gillette Stadium, actually. Next week, they went off to New York. Then they went down to, they went all around. They went to Denver. They went down to California.
Teams. You're saying no teams are linked to cities. So like New York
exactly.
doesn't have a team. Yeah, no. I like that idea because I was almost like, isn't that what the girls' hockey league's kind of doing right now?
No, I think they're actually gonna have cities. But I think they're talking about possibly doing a tour model, and that's what this is. That's what this league was about. They kind of just did a tour model, and it worked really well for them. It makes it so you don't have to try to hopefully sell out every stadium. 3 games a week with 3 different stadiums. No, they were doing 2 games on Saturday and 1 on Sunday, type of thing. And it's easier, right? You make it a family event. You get the kids down.
For sure.
Let's go drive down. They can get a hotel, and they get to see lots of lacrosse. So, but yeah, they're doing from July 25th.
Really good lacrosse.
So they're doing from July 25th to August 9th. It's going to be 3 weeks. The first week's going to be a training camp for them, which is going to be good. Get the guys out, get them chucking the ball around. Some of these teams have had trades. They've had their drafts coming up, everything else. So they're going to have new players on the teams, and then they're going to have 2 weeks worth of games. The first week is kind of going to be your typical round robin, which you guys are probably, if you guys ever played hockey and stuff, before the championship of the tournaments actually get started. You obviously have to have a couple of games to kind of set seeds and everything else. They're going to have that, and then they're going to have essentially a bracket, to decide who's going to win the championship this year. It's going to be 20 games in total, but they're able to do it because they're talking small numbers. They're going to have less people between these 7 teams by the time they add, coaches, trainers, medical staff, production crews, everything. They're going to be, I think they said, under 300 people. And that's because they only have 7 teams, right? NHL, you'd never be able to have that. NFL, definitely not, right? That's 3 or 4 teams, right? And they got 32 in the league. So
exactly, that's a couple teams, really.
Yeah, so they're kind of able to do it through this tour-based model, but essentially there's going to be some kind of sports in North America at some point in the future. So that's exciting.
Was there a mini earthquake over there, or what's all the excitement going on?
I just I accidentally hit my mic and it came crashing down towards me.
Oh, I saw it. It was great. It was great.
I had a worried face for a bit, but
it's all right. What was I going to say? I know they've talked about different things with the NHL and stuff, like trying to go to certain cities and bring so many teams and see if they can't hash out some regular season games that way. So it'll be interesting to see in other sports like the NHL and the NFL right now. Today they just released they're releasing the schedules, which is exciting. Maybe we'll do a little blurb about that next time we're on our next episode. We'll just, I don't know, maybe me and Eric will each pick a team that we like who they're playing or whatever. So
you're going to get to see kind of who has the strength of schedule, right? So
exactly, who's got easy schedule, who's got the tough ones, and how that goes.
And like I said, they're trying to find all these sports leagues and all these guys. Tennis is trying to figure this out. Golf, everybody, right? How do you play these sports? And do you need fans? No, but for a lot of these big arena areas, like a hockey, especially football, right? You're talking, big attendance numbers for these football games. They can't not make that money. Somewhere's at some point, somebody's going to have to bite the bullet. And if it's the owners, I guarantee you're going to see a salary cap kind of take a hit. They keep on saying that for a lot of these leagues. If there's no season, the salary cap, because that's how they do the salary cap, right? It's all in projections.
Just think of the escrow there for the NHL players, man. They're going to, if they don't finish this season, they're going to take a, you know what I mean? The next 3, it's not just 1 year too, like you said. It'll be I can't even think of the word I'm trying to use here. Burn. I just burned myself. Anyways, repercussions. There you go,
yeah,
Trev.
Repercussions.
Big guy.
Look at the big word.
Like 2 words. I know, right? Don't tell anybody. Play dumb. That's the best advice I can give you people. I'm just kidding. Anyways, there'll be I can't say it again. That's horrible. There we go. There's that word again. So and it's a trickle down effect. It'll be a couple of years, which is unfortunate, especially because the NHL is supposed to put their cap up. So I'm kind of hoping they still do play it out. I really do like these creative ideas they're coming up with, like I said. But hopefully they can get the season in. And if they actually do, man, it doesn't even matter if people are in the stands. I think just me and you're casual, not even, just other people who want to watch something, I think they'll have crazy ratings, right? Because we're so starved for TV and something to watch, something to do, occupy us. And especially since this is the exciting time, we're coming into the playoffs in the NBA and the NHL. Plus, when you're talking baseball, it's also, the start of a new year. So that's exciting as well. So, it's going to be interesting if it actually does happen. So I'm really excited on one hand to see that UFC is coming back, also that NASCAR is coming back. So, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and there's a good chance the NBA and the NHL will come up with something, and baseball, and we'll see sports start up again. As long as they do it safely, I'm all for it. I'm looking forward to it. I know you are too.
Yeah, I think some people were watching the Korean baseball organization or something like that. They were playing with essentially they had banners across the seats in the stand.
Cut out fans people, or whatever. That was awesome.
With people's faces printed on or whatever. It was kind of funny to watch. But they're playing some kind of baseball over there, right? So they got a league going.
It's a pro league, and like you said, the ratings. I know you're losing out on those ticket sales and your concessions and all that, but at least you must be getting it on the ratings, right? You'd assume. So
yeah, and I know I watched with Bill Sim. I listen to a lot of other podcasts. That's part of the reason why we wanted. Me and Trevor listen to a lot of podcasts. That's part of the reason why we wanted to start our own. We said, look, we have opinions. We can talk crap with all these other people. And Bill Simmons is one I've listened to for a long time, and they were kind of talking about how do you do this. But with the NFL, you could even do it where you have guys playing. Why do you got to wait till Sunday for all these games? Why don't you play games? 2 or 3 games on Friday, couple games on Saturday, couple games on Sunday, space them out, and you can still do it. They'd have to figure a way for the schedule, and we'll see that.
Yeah, they'd have to make sure they get a certain amount of days rest in between games. But like you said, they could probably work on it. If so many teams played on a Friday, then those teams could meet the next following Sunday.
And if you go to Amazon or one of these big places that are able to buy these games, you can sell the rights to those games for big money, right? So because not all these games, some of those games are just local games that they don't have. NBC doesn't have it. Fox doesn't have it. All these places don't have these games, right? So you just have these random games like a Detroit Lions versus Arizona Cardinals game on Sunday at 2:00. Chances are it's going to be overlooked compared to like a Packers versus
Green Bay. That is Green Bay. That is Green Bay, but when I was going with the Vikings,
Packers or Bears.
Too much
Packers,
sun
Bears, or somebody else, right? Like you're talking about other teams, right? So, but that's one of the notes I had on here. And before we get to that, stop what you guys are doing right now. If you haven't yet, go give us a follow, give us a like. We're going to do this ahead of time. We're not going to get to the end of the podcast for this. We're going to throw this in now before we get into the nitty gritty here.
The meat.
Leave us a comment. Listen to the rest of it. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. Go like us, subscribe to us on YouTube. We appreciate it. Anyways, back to what I was talking about.
Even if you want to talk about me and Eric's beard, who's got the best growth going? Do you like Eric's look, or do you like the salt and pepper like I got going here? Like, it is what it is, people. Like,
Did you enjoy that picture? Did you enjoy that picture I put up earlier on Facebook?
Oh, I loved it.
I had the hair going all over. It was crazy. The beard, I fluffed it out. It made it look even worse.
I saw the beard. It was intense.
It's
like Nutty Professor intense. Like just there's a reference for you, people. Come on.
The Nutty Professor. You're right. So one of the things I did have on here is the NFL schedule release. So this has now become primetime television. The NFL schedule. This is how desperate we are for sports. Is that the NFL schedule release is now like primetime television. It's coming out tonight at 9. I think it's 8 Eastern. Anybody watching it in the Maritimes with us, 9:00 at night. That's primetime television on a Thursday for a schedule release. That's what we're dealing with here, which is great. We're all for it. We don't care. Give us anything at this point, right? So,
can we not say, Eric, though? Can we not say, though, like personally, I look forward to this every year. I know people, you must think I'm a nerd. I'm totally a nerd. But I just find the NFL just does it right on so many different levels. Like their draft, their off season. So this date is when free agency hits. This date we're having the draft. This date we're releasing the schedule.
And they make events out of it.
Preseason happens. Then there's the Hall of Fame game. Like they just do it right. They got such a good following. They just do everything, it seems like, just with class and A1. This is where I wish the NHL, what the heck, the major leagues, just so many other sports, even the NBA a little bit. The NBA is a little bit better than the NHL. And like I said, baseball. I wish they just did it better. They just could do it better. Like, for example, like in baseball, they have like a couple different drafts. It's hard to find it televised. Like
baseball, they wonder why they haven't been able to stay relevant over all this time. And a lot of it because they haven't connected with the fans on that level. There's so many games, through the run of a year. That's one issue, right? 164 games a year. It's hard to watch all.
I can't remember what it is. We're close.
I think it's 160.
Between the two of us, we're right.
It's 160 something. And you have all these games, which is like, do you really need all these games? Probably not. Not everybody's going to watch all these games. You look, it's not even an attendance thing. Yeah, maybe for the Red Sox and the Yankees, but most teams aren't selling out every game. Teams, yeah, right? And a lot of these guys aren't selling, on a Tuesday night.
Well, you can't. Like when they do a double header and it's like starting at 11 o'clock or you know what I mean, at 12 in the afternoon, and then they have the second game. Well, of course they're going to get, unless you have no job or you've got a part-time job or you have
like the Milwaukee Brewers versus like the Cincinnati Reds on a Tuesday night. That's not selling out, right? Like it's just weird stuff like that. But they've done stuff with like everywhere else makes these drafts into big things. Even the NHL, right? They make it into a big thing. Even the PLL.
Steadily coming around. They're, like the NHL does it all right, but it could be better, right? Can we agree on that?
Yeah, 100%. And then I know even like the PL, they did a lot of stuff this year because they understand that the draft's a big thing. They didn't have their entry draft this year. They had the entry draft last year on NBC, but they had their free agency draft for they had anybody that was coming over from the other league over to the PLL. They said like, look, we're going to make it into an event. You know, everyone has, if they're coming over from this league, we understand there's going to be some turnover. We're going to have, you know, if you want to pick who you want out of the other league, we're going to have a draft for it. And they made it a big thing on Instagram, on Twitter, where they were announcing it. Like they really went into it. Hockey does it. Even the Q, where we watch the QMJHL, the junior hockey, they have an actual draft. I went to it. I went to the one in St. John.
That's
they have all the kids show up. They call the name. They walk down the aisle, and they get to stand up there with their jersey, and it's awesome. Like that's, even they get it that it's a big deal. MLB just really hasn't jumped on that as much. They kind of lacked on that, and a lot of the stuff when it comes to MLB, right? Nothing's really,
get your shit together, MLB. Come on.
Yeah,
Join
maybe
us
we don't
in the 20th century here. Come on.
Well, that's the problem with baseball. But even with you see with, we're in Canada, obviously, so you see Trade Center deadline day, and it's a full day, and that's like a holiday over out here.
Oh yeah,
one of the best days of the year.
I firmly sit my bum in the couch, and I put in the work. There's coffee brewing. I'm sitting there. I'm struggling through it. It's wicked. I'm excited
for that part next year, right? That's the nice thing with podcasts. We can kind of talk about that stuff, right? Like who went where, what, and then we can talk about, did they overpay for this guy? Did they pay over, so it's kind of nice to see all this stuff, that kind of happens. But like I said, there's so many things that go on nowadays. And maybe baseball's big over there when they got Sports Center. Maybe they have something like this. I don't think so. From what I've understood, from what I've always looked at, baseball just doesn't do it that way. I've always liked to see the NFL get into more trades. I've never understood why they don't.
They're starting to go that way, the NFL, which is
a little
awesome,
bit,
especially the last couple of years.
I think if they push back the trade deadline to like week 12, kind of like when you can kind of have more of an idea of when is my team going to make the playoffs? No, guess what? We sucked this year. We started, it's week 12. We started, 3-8 because of the bye week. We're not going to make it this year. It's unfortunate. Quarterback went down, whatever. Let's trade off some pieces, build through the draft, whatever. It'd be nice to see the NFL kind of come out to that style eventually.
It's hard to say right now. The NFL is different, like you said. A lot of times now the guys that get traded are the guys that want too much money and the team's not comfortable with it on their second or third contract, or they're longer in the tooth. So, and they're a free agent at the end of the year. So you see, those are the guys, unfortunately, get traded mostly, but we'll see. But in the NFL, it's not like other sports or baseball where you come in and you just do your thing. Like it's a huge playbook, different verbs, different terminology. So you see guys sometimes struggle with that. They try to make it simpler for them, but that's quite the thing to have to go through. So there's got to be ups and downs there for sure. Like it's just not like baseball and hockey where it's like get out there, kid, or older guy, and
go swing a bat or go
do your thing. So
go skate down the ice. It's a lot easier to kind of get into those systems where NFL. And I understand that part of it, but you'd almost just think that they're in game shape.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Trades. Like who doesn't love trades?
I love it.
And they release so many guys. Like. So even if you're giving away an all-star that he wants too much money and it's just not working with you anymore, why not get that 7th round pick? That 6th or that 7th and flip the guy. So at least you got something, right?
New England's famous for it, right? New England's famous for giving up 5th and 6th round picks for Kyle Van Noy and Danny Shelton and all these other guys that have come over to them.
Former first-round picks that they quote-unquote didn't work with the original team and then come into New England and they're studs. So... kudos to Belichick, man. Like if he liked you day one, man, he seems to follow up on watch a lot of guys 2 or 3 years later on. Like he's always got his eye out there. Man, he's so far ahead of a lot of the guys in the league. No wonder they're so dominant. They just do a hell of a job. Like it's unreal. Like you're starting to see teams now catch on to what they're doing, and more teams like Miami Dolphins and Matt Patricia there in Detroit. You're starting to see more guys that come from New England system, or even not come from New England system, kind of willing to trade back and get more assets. And like Miami, like they did a hell of a job last year. They traded away
it's
so
just
many
you're
people.
getting more kicks at the can at the end of the day.
The more value you have, like the draft, you're bound to hit on guys. You're not going to draft, like if you have 14, 15 draft picks, you're not going to take them all. There's only so much room on your team, but you can trade for picks later on other years. You can trade picks for players. We see this all the time. I don't want to bore anybody here on our podcast, but there's a reason New England has been so successful for so long, and it's not just because number 12 was back there slinging it. Like they're doing a good job replacing talent and finding talent. So, all the dominant teams do it. Like the Raptors, man, they lose Kawhi Leonard, and they don't have a first-round draft pick. They traded it away. And what does Davis do? He's an unsigned. Well, he's a shooting guard, I believe. I think in college he was a point guard. Don't quote me. I did watch him in college. But anyways, he comes in and what's he do, man? High motor, great defense. Well, we stole him from the Denver Nuggets side, signed him in the G League. Man, they should have given him a contract. But anyways, essentially what I'm trying to say is Davis comes in, tears it up for the Raptors. He does a pretty good job. I don't want to say tear it up, but he's a hell of a player, and he's got a bright future ahead of him. And he basically was a first-round pick that we didn't have. We just signed him as a free agent. So you can find guys, and you got to coach them up. So shout out to Nick Nurse. They're doing something right there in Toronto, man. The culture is unreal. I kind of wish we did have Kawhi Leonard to make this run here. But they
were good anyways, right?
There. Yeah, it's great. Like Norman Powell finally steps up. Well, I shouldn't say finally steps up. Norman Powell does his thing. He's great. He's hella all the way around. He's scoring more this year, which they really need. But the injuries has been nasty. Go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
Well, I was gonna say people talked about the Raptors like they weren't sure if they were even gonna make the playoffs this year, and I was like, I understand Kawhi's gone. Pathetic. Don't get me wrong, but like Kawhi was good, but he was also they kind of had him on a minutes thing last year. He didn't play every game. You know what?
Load management.
Obviously he took, he took over some games and won some games even in the regular season for us. But at the end of the day, he still wasn't there every game. Now,
he's one man.
Would I rather Kawhi in the playoffs playing for us? Yes, I would, 100%.
Yeah.
But I understand he's not there, so you just got to move on and build with what you got. And Nick Nurse is a really smart guy. He's really good when it comes to coaching these guys up.
So good defensively, and people talk about defense really does win championships because they were just smothering every team last year in the playoffs. Like people forget they were down 2 games to Milwaukee, and then they won the next 4, which is unreal if you think about it.
I'll always remember that dunk over top that Lowry kind of was on the rush. He kind of stopped, pivot, and passed back to Kawhi, and Kawhi like dunked on Giannis. Like it was so good, and it was just there were so many big plays in that run up to that championship. And obviously they get lucky, right? Durant goes down, Klay Thompson goes down.
You gotta be lucky. Like if you think, like you just said, like think about Toronto. They didn't have OG all last year in the playoffs. But they were lucky. Everybody else really, like Kyle got banged up with his thumb. Other injuries, Kawhi was dragging his leg around. I think his quad was kind of messed up for probably 2 series. But they were lucky because those guys didn't lose their physical bodies, where other teams couldn't keep guys like Golden State had caught up to them. They couldn't keep guys in the lineup. But you know what? Toronto was still playing at that crazy level. So kudos to Toronto. And what's that, sorry?
And Golden State can say whatever they want, but that first year that they beat Cleveland in the playoffs, it was LeBron by himself. Kyrie Irving had already got hurt, and Kevin Love had got hurt. So he literally was LeBron James versus this entire stacked, 3-4 guys on Golden State with Andre Iguodala and everything else. And LeBron James played amazing. So it's,
did LeBron and them take them 7? I can't remember.
No, that was like it was 6. 5. I think they won 1 game.
I remember
and
that.
It wasn't even really close. But LeBron was so much better than you could tell. LeBron was the best player on that court, and
for sure
he was leaving it all out there with nobody around him. So a lot of these championships they are luck, right? You get the balance one way or another.
You got to have some luck. But what was I going to say?
You look at the shot by Kawhi, right?
Exactly.
Like that was it had to hit the rim 3 times to go in. Like that's at some point that's luck. You know, it's not
for sure.
Not how he drew it up. If it's how he drew it up, it would have been a swish, right? Like right through the.
I'll never forget that though. That's one of those epic shots. What else I want to say? So, and they're defending champs. So you think that Toronto would get a little more respect or not? But you know, when you win something like that, you just learn how to win. Like you're in those grudging games. Like you just learn how to scratch, claw, just get it done. And the whole team's back basically, except for Danny Green, and Kawhi. So what I'm trying to say here, people, is like, you know, all those other guys are coming back in the playoffs. They know how to get it done. They know that one guy, you know, is going to step up and do it for them, which is probably Siakam or Lowry, and that's a pretty damn good option. You know, maybe I think they're easily will win a couple rounds here this year, like if not right to the finals. Like I do like them. The Bucks are good, man, but you never know. If Toronto can play that defense, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
So getting back to the NFL, there's a couple other things. There wasn't a whole lot to talk about with the NFL, but there is a couple of things. So one of the things I want to talk about is the 5th-year option. And there's a couple guys from the 2017 draft that, you know, they have this year left to play, and then they have the 5th-year option for next year, and then they're done. Myles Garrett, they're talking in Cleveland that they're just going to sign him to a big extension, $25 million or whatever it is. But then if you look, picks 2, 3, 4, and 5, all of them, all the teams said, we're declining that 5th-year option. And those picks were Mitchell Trubisky with the Bears, who they traded up to get him. Still never understand it.
Was he the first?
No, he's second overall because Myles Garrett went first to the Browns. Soloman Thomas, the defensive lineman for the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, so they said no to him. The Jacksonville Jaguars, with number 4 pick, they picked Leonard Fournette. They don't want him. They obviously we talked about it. They tried to trade him. They've tried everything. Nobody wants him.
I'm surprised. I'd like to know what really happened there, wouldn't you? Like they should have picked. That's one guy I didn't agree with it. You know, he's still got lots of tread in the tires. They should have picked that option up, but obviously something happened between the front office and Leonard Fournette, and it's just.
And I think they were behind the times. I think the days of a bruising back being a top 5 pick just aren't there anymore. And I know, like Cody that we've had on here and everything else, Cody Ballman, he loved Leonard Fournette. Like I think he grabbed him in a dynasty league in one of our fantasy leagues, right? But at the end of the day, he's a bruising running back that can't, you know, yeah, he obviously caught a lot of balls this year, but he was not really known for his shifty moves out on the edge when he does catch the ball. And he just doesn't really fit. And paying a running back now, you have to be a really good running back for it to justify you getting paid a big salary. Christian McCaffrey kind of makes sense. Zeke kind of will make a bit of sense because he can also catch the ball. Maybe Kamara, Barkley. You know, there's only a handful of these guys that kind of deserve to be paid big. But if you're just a downhill thumper, they're not getting paid $15-20 million or anything like that, right? So the value
they should have picked it up, man. Like especially now that they're rebuilding again and they traded all those guys off, they can afford to pay him. It's one more freaking year and do it. Like I don't know, like he's an effective back. Like,
but if you take him,
he's been getting nicked up. Well, it's because of, like you said, he likes the thumb. But like if you look at guys in the league like Marshawn Lynch, man, that's what he was. He was a thumper. Well, he had a little more hands. Let's be honest. Marshawn, if you threw the ball his way and he caught it for most part. But anyways, but there's still room in the NFL for that. There's something going on there with the Jags. But whatever. Like, but I totally agree. Like you got Christian McCaffrey. Those guys, you know, he got paid because you just need to get him the ball in space. You know, that's probably not Fournette's game, like you just stated it. We both just stated, but he's still an effective back in the league, and he's still good now.
I think he's a good, but
him 1 year, they can afford to pay him one freaking year.
The thing is like you're paying him so much more money that you can get that value. Like if you look real quick, like for the yards per carry, which is kind of like, you know, the big thing with running backs, right? You want to see close to that 5, right? 5 or over is where kind of that baseline where you want to see a running back.
You really want to see 4 or better, yeah. for sure.
Yeah, like I said, really, it's like even below 4.5. Like people are kind of like, I'm not interested. And he's never averaged 4.5 yards a carry. He averaged 3.9 in his rookie year. He averaged 3.3 the year after, which was obviously a year that he didn't do that great. He was injured, everything else. And then last year he averaged 4.3 yards per carry. So, you know,
I know, but he's got things working against him. Come on, bro.
I understand.
He's got no big quarterback back there, and people know what they're doing. They're going to hand the ball to the big fella and say, "Bring me to the promised land." So all I'm saying is they're stacking the box a lot. Now, not all the time, but you know what I mean. He's never had help. Let's be honest.
No, and he hasn't, but he's also had a really good. He's also had a really good. He's also had a really good defense for most of his tenure there, right?
I will agree with you.
It's just it's a lot of it, right? And I understand, like when you look at Christian McCaffrey, you know, his yards per attempt last year weren't the best. Now there was a guy that really, it was like, you know, they're playing Kyle Allen and, you know, Will Greer and everybody else. Like there was somebody really that the quarterbacks that he had in front of him just were really struggling. So
yeah,
you know, everyone's
Allen's
slow
first
the box.
kick at the can.
Yeah. So all this stuff, but it's just odd. Like I said, you don't really see it. And then Corey Davis was the other one, the receiver for Tennessee. They kind of thought he was a reach even when they took him. He was supposed to be the best route running receiver in the draft. He did come from a smaller school though, and some people said, well, okay, yeah, you can get loose and you can, you know, juke and have good routes against, you know, these random other teams there, these smaller school teams, but you haven't really played against the Ohio States, the LSU,
big
all these big
competition,
teams,
these
big competition over all the years, right? Florida States. So yeah, the 2017 draft, it's a rough go for those top 5 picks, right? Myles Garrett's good, but even he's had his injuries with
and stupid shit he does. But I love what you said. But I'm so happy you brought this topic up, Eric, because I couldn't believe it too. Like Trubisky, they dropped him. Like Corey Davis is an interesting one because I've never been so excited. I'm thinking to myself, if I'm him, I'm really pumped because, you know, hello Green Bay, like, you know, next year or hello New England. I'd love to have him in New England. You guys Chargers really don't need a receiver.
No.
But I'm just saying, like, I really like his game. He's shown lots of flashes. There's a guy I think too, well, we both know, Eric, like they haven't had great quarterback play. Last year was their best, and they seemed to hand the ball off more than they threw it with Tannehill, but he did throw it some. But I don't know. It's, you know, maybe it's that whole scenario, like you said, they don't want to pay Fournette. Maybe they just don't want to give him the money like that last year, which is a sin, man, because he's a good player.
And I think it's a big. Where'd you go? Why'd your video go away? There you go.
Oh, sorry. I just incoming call. Second call I got here. I had to.
I was wondering because it happened earlier too, but I wasn't sure what was going on. Yeah, I think that's a lot of it, right? Like these 5th-year options, they're big numbers. You know, it's not a small contract.
It's crazy though.
You have to give
5 years into a guy's career, and you're just like, no. Like even Trubisky, like I understand, you know, but you've gone this far with him, and maybe they planned on giving Foles the job, but man, like, what the hell's one more year? Like,
essentially, a lot of these teams, like, especially
worked out for him this year.
Well, but Tannehill has had way more than that 5 years. You know, he was in Miami for way more than that 5 years.
Yeah, probably 2 contracts. Like
and he really, to be honest, you know, he kind of lucked out into where he ended up in Tennessee. And I don't think he'll have the same season he did. I think they overpaid him, and I think that was it is what it is.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. That was a little bit of a reach, but I will say this one thing about Tannehill though. He was a receiver. He only started like 1 year, maybe in college, maybe 2. So, you know, there was a couple of years in the NFL which were kind of given years, you know, like he had to learn a lot. But I think he's done a decent job of learning.
And he's an average quarterback, right? Like he can be from any week. He can be between the 25th and the 16th best quarterback in the league. You know, does he ever hit the top 10? Probably not, right? Like, you know, even in his really good weeks, maybe. But, like, you know, at any point in the season, would you ever say, oh, yeah, if I'm doing a top 15 quarterbacks in the league right now, would you put Ryan Tannehill? Probably never, right? That's just part of it.
No. You know me, bud.
And it's one
I'm
of those
just
things
saying,
people
Trubisky,
people
like,
say, well, maybe if top 15, but then you really start listing them, and that's when you get into it and you're like, holy, there's a lot of good quarterbacks, right? So it's one of those things. It's a lot of this you look back and there's at some point you got to rip the Band-Aid off and understand too, though, that you made a mistake. And you seen, the most recent one that you saw that from was the Arizona Cardinals, right? They said, look, we took Josh Rosen. He doesn't really fit what our new coach wants to do. He doesn't fit that system as well with Cliff Kingsbury. And screw it. We took him with the 10th overall pick. Didn't work out. We got the first overall pick in the draft. We're drafting Kyler Murray. That was just what they decided. And to be honest, like if you don't think you have the guy,
new regime too, right? New regime there, new coach. Like he came in. I feel bad for Rosen because he really isn't got a really good kick at the can. Like
literally went from the worst team, one of the worst defensive lines I've ever seen in the Arizona Cardinals 2 years ago, to the Miami Dolphins, who then say, "Yeah, we're trading everybody." Kenny Stills, one of your good receivers. Yeah, he's gone. Your
left best tackle? Offensive lineman too.
Yeah, your left tackle. Yeah, he's gone. Who are we gonna trade? We're just gonna trade everybody we can and try to rebuild this team on the fly. And it's literally called. Everyone's saying, the Dolphins are tanking for Tua. Everyone's saying it. We're trying to be one of the worst teams. And, you kind of get the short end of the stick. Some guys that got drafted in that 2017 draft include Myles Garrett, first overall. Jamal Adams for the Jets, the safety. He went number 6.
He's a
Christian McCaffrey, which obviously, we talked about him, right? The guy averaged, had over 2,000 yards last year. Everything else. Got a big payday this year for a running back, which you don't need to see. He went number 8 overall to the Carolina Panthers. Patrick Mahomes, ever heard of him? They traded up, the Kansas City Chiefs did, to grab him at number 10. Marshawn Lattimore for the Saints at number 11. Deshaun Watson, pretty good quarterback. He went number 12. Tre'Davious White.
Bitches.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Then there was kind of a weird area where there's some okay players, but nothing great in that kind of middle of the first round. Then you had Tre'Davious White at number 27. Went to Buffalo. Some guys have him as the top 5 corner in the entire league.
He's up
also
there, yeah.
Played hockey at one point, played goalie. So he kind of always has these little skits online about his goalie school, TD goalie school. The Steelers took TJ Watt. Ever heard of him? Once again, the defensive end for the Steelers. Number 32, the Saints grabbed Ryan Ramczyk, the offensive lineman. So those guys have all been standouts.
He's a tackle, isn't he? He's on the right or left
Yeah,
side.
he's a right tackle, I think.
Yeah.
So, but he's been really good for them ever since he came in.
That was a trade with New England, actually, I believe. I'm positive.
Yeah, because it was number 32 overall, so I think that was the year.
Yeah, we dropped or traded back again. Yeah.
Yeah, which, big surprise. New England Patriots trade out of the first round. No way.
Probably the easiest thing to predict, really, honestly.
Yeah, I think the odds of them this year trading back out of the first round was, or at least trading back, not just even trading back at all, was it was stupid, not even good odds. It was doesn't even make sense to bet that, because it's just what the Patriots do every freaking year.
Or every other year, people. But I will say the most exciting draft as a Patriots fan was the year they traded up for Jones, the defensive end from Syracuse, and then they also got traded up for Dante Hightower, and Eric was there with me. I've never been so goddamn excited in my life. I was like a little kid, jumping up and down, wearing my jersey, and oh
Trevor's
my God!
Trevor's doing backflips over here. Yeah.
Oh, I was just unreal. You swear I had about 16 coffees. I was just vibrating. Anyways, good vibes. But that was probably my most exciting draft. I love both those players. So
yeah, I've obviously watched a lot of drafts with you and stuff. The Joey Bosa one was pretty good. I did like Jalen Ramsey a lot that year too, but I understood that we hadn't really had a good, force off the edge in a long time. But Jalen Ramsey was he was right there, and he was so good that it was Kind of want that guy. Don't really want to let him go, but
My favorite pick for the Chargers lately, first overall pick was Florida State boy too. You guys' safety there.
Derwin
Oh
James
god.
just fell to us.
Oh man, he was so awesome in college.
I think
Too.
we got,
Like, he was fun. Like they were still relevantly really good then. I think they had Winston for a couple years there. He played at least 1 year with Winston. So wow. So I watched a lot of Florida State. I got a Florida State shirt somewhere here.
Well, and he played with
process.
Jalen Ramsey over there and everything else.
Florida State's always got good talent.
It's Florida State's known for their DBs, right? So
Dalton, another guy come out this year. Cam, is it Atkinson? No, Cam. Doesn't matter. His first name's Cam. Yeah. He's going to be a stud. I think he got drafted by St. Louis. No, it's not St. Louis anymore. So LA Rams. But he's probably going to get a lot of touches. Watch for him, people. He's going to be good.
So sticking with Jameis Winston, who you had just mentioned a couple seconds ago, he was looking for a new team since Tom Brady took his spot over there in Tampa Bay. And he signed a 1-year contract with the New Orleans Saints. So it's widely kind of talked about and rumored that this is Drew Brees' last year. He's already signed the contract to go be a broadcaster at some point. They didn't have a year on it, but they kind of already negotiated his terms that once he is out and he is gone, as soon as he steps away from football, that next year he's in the booth, trying to be the next Tony Romo, Troy Aikman, all these guys,
spitting
right?
It out there. Yeah, a lot of the quarterbacks do a good job announcing and stuff. They break it down pretty well and they talk well too, right?
And it's because they pass a lot of stuff, right? Like they know offensive plays, they know how all that works, but they also know the defensive side of it too, right? So they get both sides of it because they have to know both sides of it, right? They have to know.
Well, you got to have a grasp on your system, and you got to have a grasp on your own system, but you got to be able to decipher what the defense is doing. Are they in man? Are they in zone? Like you said.
And you never know, right? Like Drew Brees got hurt last year; he missed 5 games. Teddy Bridgewater had to step in. Maybe that's where Jameis really learns, right? Like people talk about, and I think we've talked about this before, but Jameis went last year and had a lot of interceptions. But it's kind of known that in Bruce Arians' like air raid offense, they're just chucking the ball downfield. Like, yeah, that's gonna lead to more interceptions, right? Like you're just chucking the ball downfield 24/7. Those aren't, Tom Brady does such a great job, but part of the reason is because Tom Brady, he doesn't chuck downfield unless he has to. Most of Tom's throws are 5-yard outs and little hitch routes and little, all short 5-10 yard stuff, screen passes, everything else, right? Like they're higher, percentage throws that you're running up against, right? So, and in Bruce Arians' offense, a lot of the guys do struggle in the first year because it is just a different offense that you're
trying to get chunks, like you're saying, trying to get chunks, trying to get the big play,
which they're there a lot of times, right? And and people can say anything. Jameis had all this stuff, but maybe if he gets to kind of sit behind Drew Brees and learn, and if Drew gets hurt for a little bit, and maybe when he steps in, if he does, say in 5 games, if he gets 5 games like Teddy did, maybe he does 12 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Maybe people go, "Whoa, is Jameis?"
I'm kind of looking forward to it. Hopefully, Breezy doesn't get hurt though. Hopefully, Breezy doesn't get hurt. But like you said, I'm interested to see what Sean Payton can do with him. I think Winston's got talent. He could be a victim of so many, musical coaches out there in Tampa too, a little bit. But it's like you said, he's a little bit of a gunslinger, and they're trying to force the ball lots. And, he's still a good quarterback, but he hasn't stepped away from that average quarterback grouping like you've made apparent for many reasons. Like he doesn't, 30 touchdowns. So you got to have talent in the NFL to throw
30 touchdowns and 5,000 yards.
You also can't turn the ball over 30 times.
30 times and then a bunch of interceptions.
So that's just interceptions. So just think about if he fumbled 2 or 3 more times. Like
I think he had
turnovers by one guy. It's unacceptable.
I think he had like 8 fumbles last year. So I think he had like 38. So it's just too many, right? But like I said,
not gonna win that way, boys.
Nope, but at least he's a professional quarterback that can get it out there and give you a chance, right? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won 8 games last year, I think, if I remember correctly. So he still won. He still won a decent amount of games, and that gives you a better. What gives you a better chance? Jameis Winston in New Orleans as a backup, or Taysom Hill, or some random guy, a Nate Sudfeld, or like some of these teams just have these random.
And Hill's only thrown so many passes, right? So barely any.
Jameis Winston's thrown more interceptions to New Orleans Saints players. He's thrown 10 times to the New Orleans Saints players. Taysom Hill has 7 passes connected to New Orleans Saints players. So Jameis actually has more more experience thrown to New Orleans Saints players. So another quarterback that actually switched teams in this past week, Andy Dalton, he gone. He's out of here. Everyone kind of knew the Bengals were moving on from him. Some people said, well, maybe it's worth it just to keep him and Joe Burrow can kind of learn from him. They had different thoughts about that. So they said, no, see you later. Bye,
Let's
Andy.
save 17 or 18 million. Yeah.
It was 17 million, I think. So
go.
they're like, no, the Red Rocket gone.
Did you see what he said about signing with Dallas, though?
What was that?
It was a big reason he signed in Dallas, I guess. They have a house down there already, especially with all this COVID-19 stuff, which I thought that was very interesting, right? So it'll be interesting to see what goes on there next year.
You're close there. They also signed him for $7 million, which is same thing, nothing for a backup quarterback. And a lot of it's because, they would probably pay him some over from the Bengals. He said he's from Texas. He went to TCU, same as the guy behind me. There you go. LT. Yeah, they did. You're right, they did. And so Andy Dalton goes to Dallas. He's going to be backing up Dak Prescott. Or if Dak Prescott really wants to push the situation, doesn't want to play underneath the franchise tag that they put on him, then they just have Andy Dalton to sling the rock, which is Andy Dalton, same thing, one of the top 15 players in the league for the quarterback position? Probably not. But is he better, once again, is he better than a random guy like Nate Sudfeld or Chase Daniel or whoever you'd bring in? Yeah, he is. He's a competent NFL starter.
He's a hell of an insurance policy. I love, you know what I mean? A great signing by Dallas. Jerry Jones, I hate your guts, but good job here.
He's had a really good offseason.
That little bit of money. Well, they've done a decent job this year, and like you said, it's a hell of an insurance policy. Dak likes to run some, and Andy Dalton can come in and win you games and win you playoff games too. Especially with that supporting cast they got around him. And they brought some more offensive line in to try to, which was they had to really. So I just love everything Dallas has done. I hate Dallas. I'm not a Dallas lover. If you listen to our podcast at all, you know this, and it's a big, it's American team, my ass. But anyways, I really do like the signing, and it is a hell of a move. Now, hopefully Cam, I just read today too on Cam Newton. Let's touch on Newton because he's still out there for agency. But he just came to his senses because he was holding out, saying he still wants a starting gig. Cam, just sign with somebody, stop being an idiot. And it just came out today that he has now changed his mind and is willing to sign with the right team, right opportunity, regardless of whether he starts or not. Thank God, Cam, because, seriously, get your shit together. He should – I'm not a Cam lover. I hate Cam people, but he should be in the league. He's got talent. So, even if he's just sitting there on the bench, another hell of an insurance policy because Cam can win you games. He went to a Super Bowl, so that's no fluke. So maybe he ends up in Washington, who knows? Oh, another quarterback. Let's mention that too. So Alex Smith is released a video on Instagram today, and he's out there doing some footwork. Let me trip over my words a little bit more, and slinging the ball around, and that's great to see after that nasty leg injury. Good for you, Alex, and hopefully you do get back on the field someday.
That guy probably shouldn't, though. That was a gruesome leg injury. You hate to see it, and I don't even know what you do there.
Tibula, wasn't it? That happened to another Redskin quarterback too.
Joe Theismann.
Oh my God, that was nasty too. Oh,
the similarities on that. They're 40 years apart or 30 years apart, whatever it was, I can't remember. and like a bunch of stuff was like the score was the same. They were in the same quarter. It was a hit by a former defensive player of the year. They were both missing their left tackle due to injury at the time. Like the similarities between the two is like eerie, essentially, is what you want to kind of say. But yeah, he's a wild individual, but it's crazy, right? Like I think one thing, just to go back to the Dak thing in Dallas, I think Jerry Jones is kind of saying like, look, one of the biggest things we've had is that we haven't had to pay you big money over these last 4 years, which understandable, right? But at the same time, like, and you saw this with Derek Carr, when you have these guys that play on second round or third round or fourth round or fifth round, salaries, they're so much lower. Like a first round quarterback is an amazing value as is. You get down to the second, third, fourth, fifth round, like, Russell Wilson, all these guys,
cheaper. You
have so much more money to put, all these other weapons around them. And Derek Carr had that issue when Derek Carr got his big payday and was making all of a sudden $30 million a year or whatever he makes. They had to get rid of a couple offensive linemen, right? You had to get rid of a weapon here and there. You had to get rid of a couple players. And then you start seeing the holes, right? Now you have to see that quarterback throw the guys open. You have to see the quarterbacks, really build up all this to make it, to really show that it's their team. And you don't have as much help, right? Like that's one of the big things that the Dallas has had. Dallas did an amazing job at building in the trenches. And when they did that, they built, they had Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, Travis Frederick. They got the guy that Collins that signed as a undrafted free agent after the draft because he started falling because there was something that came out that he was being questioned in like a murder or something like that. It was just terrible. But they had probably one of the top 5 offensive lines. Well, when you can stand back there and sling the rock, and that's been my thing with Lamar Jackson, he had like zero pressure, one of the lowest amount of pressures all last year. It's not even like just sacks, right? Sacks show like, and if he had a ton of pressures, but rarely got sacked because he either got away or whatever, but he doesn't even have a whole lot of, pressures. And he played from ahead a lot of the time because of the defense. But, you miss Marshall Yonda now, and Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer at guard. You start losing some of these pieces, and the quarterbacks have to really pick it up. That's why it's impressive to watch guys like Tom Brady, like Drew Brees, like Peyton Manning, like Philip Rivers, Eli, that can consistently do it for 15 to 20 years. Like,
and
that's
regardless,
crazy.
And that's with the personnel changing around it too, and all that. But on that note, before we get away from Yonda, they brought in. Did you see? I just read recently too. They brought in DJ Fluker. So remember, Seattle just cut him randomly after the draft. Now
former Charger,
for sure. He was first round pick for you guys, was he not?
Yep, he was.
Yeah, like he's going to come in there and contribute, like, or at least battle with a couple of the young guys they brought in. But let's not get that wrong. Like, even if Fluker does a decent job there, he's no Yonda. Yonda's a Hall of Famer, and he's been since day one. He stepped in that lineup, and that's why he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
And Fluker fits what they want to do too, because Fluker's always been a mauler. He's always They put him at right tackle. He was never going to be a left tackle. He's this big, monster of a man. But he should have been a right guard for even the Chargers. I think they end up pushing him in at some points, but he just doesn't have the arm talent to really, play that right tackle position. Yeah, little T-Rex arms. Big old biceps. Like, he's way bigger than I am, so I can't even say anything. That guy's a monster. But in that run game, he's going to do so good, and it's going to be scary. It's still not Marshall Yonda, but
yeah. Like, it was interesting with their draft too, because they took a couple more maulers, like you just said, like guys that do really good in the run game, throw guys around. Which is interesting because that's why they're doing it, because that's what their offense is based around, right? So, and like you said, if they hand the ball off, like Lamar Jackson's going to rip big yardage plays off because they run so good. They're going to go play action, and somebody's going to be open. Maybe not the first time, maybe not the second time, but the third time they're going to hit somebody for big yardage. So,
and maybe I'm wrong with this, but I'm pretty sure it was only like in all of last year in the regular season, the Ravens only played 93 plays or something like that where they were losing in the throughout the game or in the first half or something. So
that makes sense.
They never played from behind, and that means you can run the ball more often, and that means you can take a shot every once in a while, which opens it up. And plus, he had a good. It all works out for you, right?
No, exactly.
If you can find a good
Marshawn Lynch, right? They're gonna if Seattle. So just I don't know what Eric was saying here because I have a thought too. So in the Ravens, they want to be leading because you're running the ball. Now you're not only controlling the game. You've got the ball in your hands, but you're controlling the clock. The other team's starting to panic. So if you're a balanced offense or you lean more on your running team as well, if your quarterback's going to go out there and sling it 20 more times in shotgun than he should be, you're going to get exposed. That's why you're a running team. So I love it.
Or if you're down 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns going into the fourth quarter, you don't care. You're just and I've said it multiple times, but Philip Rivers said it last year because people were saying oh, I see you threw an interception here in the last, in the last couple minutes, blah blah. And he's like, we're losing by 2 touchdowns. I don't care if I throw an interception because I'm trying to force a ball in to get it downfield because we only have 53 seconds left or 23 seconds left to make it the length of the field. Yeah, guess what? If it's an interception, it's an interception. Or an interception at the end of the half, that doesn't really matter. It's just an interception that didn't get returned or anything. He's out there to win. He doesn't care about the interception numbers, right? But it's one of those things.
You got to push the ball down there.
Yeah, exactly, right? But if you have a defense that keeps you in those games and keeps you ahead because you can get up by a couple scores, that's the biggest thing a quarterback can use, right? So as long as you kind of keep on playing the proper way.
And I will say this, Kansas City fans, you haven't won it this year already. You can't just say you're a dynasty. The Ravens they were really good last year, and I think they're better. They lose Yonda, but they got better on the other side of the ball in defense. I truly believe that. They had a hell of a draft class. They added another runner, which I kept seeing Eric when we were on Zoom for the draft because social distancing. But anyways, they added Dobson from Ohio State, man, and he runs.
J.K. Dobbins.
He's a hell of a runner, man. He's a tricky runner. He's a hell of a player. And a lot of other this draft was so deep in running backs. People just don't understand how many good running backs were in this draft. But this guy here teamed up with who am I missing here? Who's the running back? You remember?
I haven't.
The Ravens, former Saint.
Mark Ingram. Mark
Ingram. So those two are going to be unreal together. Then you add in Lamar Jackson. Are you kidding me? Plus they got Brown out there, and he's fast as hell. Didn't the Ravens draft another receiver too?
Yeah. Yeah, he
doesn't even matter. Just think of weapons.
Hollywood
Two
Brown.
really good tight ends. Oh my God! Just think of that offense. It screams explosive. So Kansas City, you haven't won shit yet.
Yeah,
Baltimore's right there.
But Baltimore's smart, right? They're not trying to make Lamar into something that he's not. They're not trying to make him into a quarterback that draws back and tries to throw it 50 times a game because they know that's not what he is, which is fine, right? Play to your strengths and you'll be better before it, right? So push the boundaries a bit.
The vision they had, right? John Harbaugh is. Here's another example.
He's underrated.
Another coach, for sure. He's 2 Super Bowl wins. Another coach who's a long-tenured coach. See, here's the trend, people. Bill's been around. Andy Reid's been around. Who's just won a Super Bowl. If you let the guys get in there, know what they want. There's going to be some misses on some draft picks and some players. You're going to take a chance on guys for free agency that aren't going to work. But, man, the guys that have been there a while seem to get it done, Eric. Proof's in the pudding, am I right?
Except for Freddie Kitchens. Kick that mofo out as soon as you get a chance to.
1 year. Why would you hire the fucker? Pardon my English. French. Whatever you want to say.
French. So we're going to get away from the NFL, but we're going to stick just quickly with the CFL. And I'm wearing my Edmonton Eskimos shirt because of all this. But we had a local boy get drafted with the CFL draft last week. He's out of Moncton, where we're from. And he went 17th overall in the second round to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. The guy played for Moncton High. He played university ball for the Acadia Axemen. Not Trevor's favorite. Trevor's from went to St. FX. So
go St. FX.
The old X-Men. There you go. X-Men and Axemen. So Acadia's Axe, like what you chop down wood with. And it's Bailey Feltmate. He's a linebacker. He's 6'2", 225. So, like I said, just wanted to kind of throw that out. It's exciting, I'm sure, for the young man. Eventually if they ever do get back to playing football, especially in the CFL, he's going to be able to play linebacker for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, which is
looking forward to seeing you play, big guy. Looking forward to seeing you play.
So it's just nice to see, right? Like I said, we don't get a whole lot of football from the local guys making the big leagues. We're just smaller, right? So Ontario teams are just bigger, faster, and they just have the population base, right? You're just talking about a province with how many millions of people compared to New Brunswick or Nova Scotia, which were a lot smaller. So just more of a chance to find really good players there. So anyways, just wanted to give that a shout out. But yeah, they had the draft in the CFL. Once again, we didn't touch on it. Not really going to get into it. There's a couple. I think there was a Canadian boy. He played down in Ohio. Played quarterback down there. He got drafted, which is exciting. So it's always nice to see some Canadian talent, get up there in the draft, and it's nice to see. I said, whether it's Canadian boys, like a Canadian quarterback, which you've seen a couple of them, Brandon Bridge and a couple other guys over the past couple of years. But like I said, see a local guy literally from here, from where we're from, make it. That's awesome. So, and then we're gonna just touch quickly before we wrap this all up on some hockey. So one of the things I want to talk about is, I don't think we talked about this last week. I don't know if it had broken yet, but Yaroslav Halak, the goaltender for the Bruins, signs a $2.25 million one-year contract extension to continue to be the backup goalie for the Bruins. And that is a steal of a deal. And that's crazy steal. And I think before he was only making, let's say 4.1. So You think they just offer him the same amount of money, but no, the Boston Bruins, you got to, again, get another guy to take a discount. I don't blame him. Who wants to freaking lose? And Boston's been doing nothing but winning. But, damn, AR, crazy, eh? $2.25 million to play in 25 to 30 games a year, while Tuukka Rask kind of handles the most of it. You still get to put up good numbers, and especially through all this whole scenario, you don't know when, what do you do, test free agency, and you don't know, maybe they won't be able to check your medicals. Maybe you run into a Cam Newton situation where they can't check you out, so they don't want to, sign you for whatever reason. So instead, he just takes what he knows he can get, with a team that he knows that's really good, that has an awesome defense in front of him, that if for some reason Tuukka Rask goes down, he can, maybe try to take him to a Stanley Cup. So
I think Tuukka's a free agent here too. So we'll see.
I think it's coming up soon. Like I said, it's and Halak has kind of been one of those guys. He was a big name when he played for the Islanders. He was a huge name in Montreal. They were trying to anoint him as the number one, trying to get Carey Price traded out of the out of Montreal. Yeah, well, because I think that was the year that they beat Pittsburgh, and I think they beat Washington in the playoffs. So I think that was the year that was a big playoff year for them. But they were like, Halak's our guy, Carey Price, this 20-some-year-old goaltender. What's he going to become? He's not going to be good. Let's go with Halak instead. So also shout out to me and D&M Sports in Moncton. They had a jersey raffle for a mystery box, and I won a Carey Price All-Star jersey. So
I saw that. Congrats.
Good. It was a good $16 to spend for a jersey that's probably over $400. So it was for sure. Go me. I'm not even a Montreal fan, as you guys can see. If you're watching, you can see I got Colorado behind me with Patrick Wall and Cale Makar. But Carey Price I did play goalie when I was a younger fella, and I just appreciate what Carey Price can bring to the game. So,
hell of a player.
He is a hell of a player. And then we had a couple, just want to touch on them quickly. A couple of defensemen from, I think they both played in the KHL. The Leafs signed Mikko Lehtinen, left-handed defenseman, to a one-year entry-level contract. So probably $950 or something like that.
Bye-bye, Barry. Toodle-doo. Have fun at free agency, Haas.
And Tyson Barrie's kind of had the rough go about it. Like they traded, obviously Colorado traded him, and I like Tyson Barrie, but he has his faults, and I knew Toronto was going to eat him up because he's as good as he is offensively, which he does. Sometimes he just like whiffs on random plays for a defenseman, which you never want to see. So that's another thing that you.
It happens. It happens.
But he puts up 40, 50 points a year. Like, what do you want from a defenseman? He's going to give you everything you could want, especially on the power play. And that's how you got to use him, right? You got to use him in the right situations. But they were talking. He wanted big money. Like over $8 million a year. When he was in Colorado, that's what he was kind of rumored to kind of want. And they said, look, we like you, but we got a couple things coming on the pipeline that we kind of like a little bit more. And for 8 point whatever, nah, you can keep on going. We'll trade you for Nazem Kadri, who's on a good contract.
Crazy good contract. Steal.
Yeah. Colorado's full of good contracts, by the way. Mikko Rantanen's our highest paid player.
Your time's coming, Haas. Your time's coming.
Hey, Nathan McKinnon signed for like $6 million for the next 3 years.
Don't worry about it. Your time's coming.
Looking like the Bruins out there with like all these guys under like $6 million, right? So, and then the Senators signed, keeping in Ontario, they signed Artem Zub, right-handed defenseman out of the KHL. He put up 22 points in 57 games, including 13 goals. So that offensive kind of defenseman that you kind of want to see that can
two-way
add
guy,
a little bit on the rest. Yep. So just want to touch.
I do like that signing for Ottawa though, especially with DJ Fluker. He just who did they get from Toronto? Not
DJ
Sam
Fluker.
No, who's the
DJ Smith.
Who's the? Yeah, did I say okay? Yeah, so
you said DJ Fluker, the right tackle.
Oh my goodness, people! I apologize. The coffee wasn't strong enough today, but too much sun yesterday. But he just seems to do good with those Russian guys. Especially in their first year in the NHL doing that transformation. They're both those players you just mentioned at Toronto and Ottawa just signed around 25, I believe, or 26 are right there in that ballpark. Yeah. Great signings, and they're one-year deals, and we'll see if these guys can hack it in the NHL. Like, both skate well, both, I'd say, basically two-way defensemen. So, decent size,
you're not paying, it's not like you're paying these guys like $12 million or
1-year entry deal.
They're cheap, right? Take the chance. Who'd you rather have, them or Ilya Kovalchuk? I can tell you who I'd rather have.
Yeah, Toronto doesn't need any more forwards, so we're stacked there. So with all these moves, I truly believe Toronto's going to be traded forward, but we'll see. We'll see.
I think so too, but so I kind of touched on it too. The other last little thing I want to get out here, but keeping the NHL. So I said Tyson Barrie. He was made expendable by all the guys coming in for Colorado. Big name, one of the big names is Cale Makar, who's up on a picture behind me. Cale Makar was between him and Sam Girard. So I just wanted to touch on it quickly Trevor, who he likes for prospects that haven't quite made the jump fully into the NHL, or guys maybe that are kind of lower down the depth chart that you might like.
I hate to say this, but we a couple of years ago we drafted an overager. It was kind of a start of a trend. He got his first sniff this year with all the injuries Toronto had. His last name's Brooks, and he played a little bit of center for us, but mostly he did play on the wing. I really enjoy him. Now he's not going to be a 25 goal scorer or a 50-point guy, but he moves pretty good out there. He's got good hockey sense to him. He's going to kill you penalties. And I think he could be like a 15, in a really good year, maybe 20 goal scorer. But he's a bottom six boy who I think can give you minutes up in the top or in the middle of the pack. So we'll say top 9. But just a guy like that. Toronto started this trend. You're starting to see teams do it more now and take chances on. They call it late bloomers. Why not? Just find talent. It's all about who says you're going to be a stud at 18? It's just like learning in classrooms. Some people catch on very quick in certain subjects. Other people take a little bit longer to get there. Just life in general, right? So, it's good to see a team think outside the box, and now teams are following suit because, Eric, everybody likes to copycat everybody. Another guy I'm going to give a shout out to that you hear lots about is Scott, our goaltender prospect, Ian Scott.
Yep.
Now, unfortunately, Ian didn't. He was supposed to. This is going to be his first year pros this year for Toronto, but he got hurt, and he wasn't able to play at all this year. But I'm really looking forward to seeing great things from this young man. And we got another goalie I really like too, who played for the Marlies a little bit this year. Trying to think of his name, it escapes me. He's a taller American, but it doesn't matter. He's another guy. If you're a Leaf fan, you know what I'm talking about. He's been up and down in the Marlies this year. By that I mean his play. This is normal. People like he come out of college. Goalies take a little bit longer. He's just getting his feet wet, So just pump the brakes. Don't get too excited, But he's had a decent year. His numbers aren't where they should be, but they're right there. And let's see what he does next year. He's only going to get better. Goalies tend to take longer unless you're stud right out of the gate, like a Carey Price or a Hart or a Marc-Andre Fleury, like these guys. But it's just a harder position to break into the NHL. You need a little more seasoning. Like a perfect example is St. Louis's new goalie. Jordan Bennington.
Bennington, yeah.
Yep. So, and he's a joy to watch. So here you go. Like I love.
Were you talking about Joseph Wool?
Yes, that's who I was talking about. The American. Yeah. I really like. I don't know if he'll be a stud starter, but we'll see in the NHL. I think he's going to make it to the NHL. Maybe a backup. Who knows? I'm looking forward to seeing him. But Scott, man, I'm really excited to see what he can do. Just can't wait. And here Toronto, just keep drafting the goalies. And there's a guy they should try, or they have on-signed right now. I wish they would sign. He played for the Sea Dogs. But anyways, I don't know if they're going to sign him. But they should. You never have enough good goalies.
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in you, Trevor. You didn't even mention Jeremy McKenna, former Moncton Wildcat.
Oh, I was really excited. And actually, Eric sent me that, and so did Cody Bowman. So shout out to you, Cody, again, and Eric. They both informed me. I got the. I don't know what their service must have been quicker than me. People. All of a sudden, like ding ding. So I read what they say, and all of a sudden it pops up on my phone like ding. The third ding. I'm like, really? These two guys process it, think about it for a minute, and then send it to me. And I'm like, really? But I was super excited, Eric, about that. Toronto was not afraid to grab smaller forwards, but this guy can straight out play. And you can learn a lot of things in the NHL, how to penalty kill and how to do this and how to do that, technique and stuff. But you cannot teach a guy how to score goals. And that's what Jeremy McKenna excels at. He's a goal scorer. Proof's in the pudding. It's too bad that their season was cut off this year, but that's life. But he had crazy numbers. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do for the Marlies.
The more and more I look at that kid, like the team as a whole for the Moncton Wildcats in the QMJHL, McKenna was one of those guys when I watched him when he came over. He was a 5th-round pick in the Q draft, and you could just tell from the moment he got to the juniors that he had that release. Like I saw him take a couple shots like on net, and like they just missed here or there, and I went, wow, like what a release on the kid. He's just, you can tell once he kind of figures it out, and this is when he's like 16 years old. Once he figures it out and kind of dials in that shot a little bit, like this kid has the chance to be really, really good. And
yeah, he's got an act for the net, yeah.
And he proved it for us, right? Over all the years. I think the Marlies, he had a cup of coffee with the Calgary Flames. He never got drafted at the NHL draft from the entire time. He went through all this stuff. But he did go up to Calgary, went to the camp last year. He had to play with, his line mate, Jacob Pelche, who did get drafted in the first round last year. But he went there. He signed a minor league contract with the Calgary Flames. And then something happened, probably includes Robert Irving opening up his pocketbook and saying, here, do you want to come back and play in Moncton? Instead of, because he was hoping to stay with I think it's the Stockton Heat. I think that's who their junior team is, the AHL team for Calgary. But he was hoping to stay there, and all of a sudden then they grabbed a bunch of like overaged, wingers and stuff that kind of took his spot on the AHL squad. So they're going to send him down to the ECHL. So, even down one more level. And he said, "Know what? Screw it. I'm going to go. I'm going to try to, make a run at this with all my old teammates. Going to go back to Moncton." And like I said, the guy has
and
the
he
chance.
did exactly that, people. He tore it up.
I said in
Fact.
the first year he put up 16 goals, 10 assists for Moncton when he was just a baby. Then he went up with 36 goals the next year. He had 45 goals last year at 97 points, and then this year he came back late, and they were kind of at the end of the season. He played in 57 games this past year. He put up 40 goals and 82 points. So it was one of those things. Like if he had played a full season, once again, probably would have cracked 100. And now he's signed by the Toronto Marlies, and he's going to have the chance to show them what he's got. He's not a big guy. Yeah,
Thanks,
he's not a big guy.
Toronto,
and he
like Toronto fans,
he talked. He said shout out to the Moncton Wildcast, who's another podcast. It's a local podcast that kind of highlights the Moncton Wildcats. Good guys over there. And they kind of had an interview with him, and he said, like, look, I kind of looked at a lot of things, talked to Calgary, talked to a couple of teams, and this was the best team for me. Keeps him close to home too. He's a PEI boy. He's a potato picker, so good for him to stay close to home and everything else. So gives him the chance. And the Toronto Marlies.
Toronto's been pumping the talent out. Can we not agree on that? Like Toronto is like the Marlies are doing something right. The guys are going to the NHL and they're being successful. Whether that's the fourth, third, second, first line, like they're all over the place. So good on you, Toronto. Good on you, Jeremy. I love it, boy.
They're like
that grit. Oh.
You're not playing for some B level or C level AHL team here. Like this is like the Cadillac of not even the Cadillac. This is like the Lamborghini of AHL teams, right? So
and his timing's just perfect too, because we got a lot of the boys made the jump up there to the big team in Toronto. Now that Toronto's paying so many forwards such big money, a lot of these guys are getting opportunity and filling in these other roles for lesser money, obviously. Mm-hmm. So here's our Marley team now needs a little help here, and here's a perfect opportunity for McKenna. Not only is he going to get good minutes, he's going to get great minutes, and they're going to give him minutes to be successful offensively. So Good for you, Jeremy. Like, no wonder you wanted to come to Toronto.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So you get him, and he's going to play. He's going to play against his former, defenseman Jonathan Aspero, who's over with the Senators AHL team. So it's exciting times. So
did we mention on that? I think we already did, but he signed an entry level contract too. So congratulations to you.
Yeah.
Well earned cost.
Yeah, he's the kid had to figure out a couple things, but he has all the potential in the world.
He was a
really
forward too. That's unreal, Eric.
Well, yeah, played forward. I think he played D before the draft. They switched him. Yeah, drafted him as they said we're going to put him as forward. He played forward for I think a season or maybe season and a half, and then they switched him back over to defense and said never look back. Right, the Ottawa liked what they saw in him, saw the potential, and so Trevor mentioned a couple of guys for his team that he's really excited about, and now I'm going to mention a couple of mine. So like I said, Tyson Barrie, he's gone, so that opened the door for Cale Makar, who everyone knows he's one of the top rookies this year. He's an old, he's not obviously a first year rookie. He played in some college for a bit, but he's just next level. He's going to be an awesome defenseman, hopefully for many years to come. And behind him, we have a lot of good defensive talent also coming up for the Avalanche. The guys that you want to watch. One of them I watched yesterday they had a replay of the 2018 World Junior game where Canada took on the United States, and it was Connor Timmins. The kid is so good, and he dealt with some big injury issues. I believe it was concussion related, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but they thought like that kid might never play hockey again. Because of all this, so it's scary, but he did really good. A lot of people wanted to see him actually make the leap to the big leagues this year. It's just a numbers game. You got Eric Johnson, you got Ian Cole, you got Sam Girard, you got Zadorov, you got Makar, you got Ryan Graves, you got Mark Barberio, you got all these guys. Is it better to bring him up?
There's no hurry.
Exactly. Bring him up and he can play, 25 games this year? Or do you put him in the AHL and he can play all these, a bunch of games and really
big minutes,
tune in his craft? And the AHL isn't a joke. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Like,
it's a hard league.
It's a hard league. If he was going back to juniors or doing that, maybe, but it is what it is.
It's a really competitive league. Like, people are trying to make the NHL, so everybody's trying to get noticed. Let's just put that out there. You don't realize that.
And that's what it is. So we got him, and then we got another defensive prospect in Bowen Byram. Bowen Byram is, he was taken with the first round pick that we got from the Ottawa deal with Matt Duchene. So I think it was 4th overall, and Bowen Byram might be one of the best defensemen from that class, or best players from that class. He is same thing as Cale Makar. He's a next level athlete. He's going to be, and it makes me excited because for a couple of years, for a couple of years we didn't have. I don't think he'll have the offensive upside as what Cale has, but I think defensively, I think he'll be a little bit better, just slightly. But like I said, there's so much upside there on our defense, and it has a chance to be really young. Like I said, between Connor Timmins, Cale Makar, Sam Girard, Bowen Byram, all those guys are under 22, 23 years old, and they're all going to be really good. That's what a lot of people don't realize about Sam Girard. Sam Girard and Cale Makar are the same age, except for Sam Girard's played in 2 extra seasons. So he's the smaller guy, I understand, but he's just.
I really do like Girard too. I really do. He's exciting to watch.
On his offensive side, he's got a lot of upside. I know Cale gets a lot of the praise or whatever, and he gets the first line power play minutes, everything else. But definitely to have Sam Girard back there is next level for us. So I said there's a couple other players, Shane Bowers, other
perfect reason why you guys were able to trade away Tyson Barrie. Like
I said, exactly. you're not gonna spend a big contract on him when you have all these young guys coming up, and they're gonna want paid eventually too. Like Cale Makar, that guy right there is gonna get paid big money coming here. They used 1 year off his contract last year.
But I
this
totally
year.
agree with you.
But I think after last year will be the last year of his entry level contract, and then that guy's going for a raise, and it's gonna be big
significant.
Time. I think he's gonna be like a $9 million, $8 million a year guy.
In Colorado, you ain't getting a discount because he just doesn't look like he wants or has anything to do with a discount. But we'll see. I could be wrong. So.
It's one of those things you kind of compare him to a Thomas Chabot and the contract that he signed, which if I remember
that'd be a great deal for you guys. $8 million.
Was 8 years, $8 million, which would probably be close to it, and maybe he wants a little bit more, but it'd at least be that. Thomas Chabot obviously brings he's another guy. He brings another level. Yeah.
But
exactly.
He had a little bit not as great a year this year as his previous years, but
he's also
they weren't totally great either. They're not stacked. We'll just say that politely.
No, but he's also defenseman number uno at 23 years of age.
And he's playing big minutes. He's playing big minutes.
Yeah, I think he's top 5 for minutes average ice time.
They're playing the shit out of him. It's awesome. If you're an Ottawa fan, that's what you want.
I think the first time.
How lucky did they get? They trade away probably at that time pretty much one of the best offensive players defensively in the league, and they have this guy in their pocket. Are you kidding me?
They got 18th overall in the 2015 draft, and I think you really started to see him and what he could be when he played that World Juniors. He was averaging 35 minutes of ice time. It was
excellent in that World Juniors.
Oh, he was wild, but he was just take it. He was I think he was over 30 minutes of average ice time. It's that you don't have that. 25, you're pushing it.
Very seldom, yeah.
23 is kind of probably average for a starting, defenseman, but or even the lower 20s. But this guy was I'm pretty sure it was close to 30, if not over 30 in the World Juniors, and even this year I think he's over 25. He's right there with Drew Doughty, Ryan Suter, and all those other big name guys that just chunk out the ice time. So, anyways, I think that's going to do it for this episode. As I said, we didn't really have a whole lot to actually sit down and talk. We kind of just spitballed all of it. I got my lacrosse talk in, so that was all I cared about.
Snuck it in there. So that little lob softball up there.
Hey, like I said, it's nice to see a league actually going. Somehow we got on basketball.
In there, and I love it.
Yeah.
Eric threw lacrosse. I come in with some Raptors talk. We both got some shit off our minds. Great.
I'm still confused of how we got on the Raptors talk. I thought about it 3/4 of the way through. I'm how did we get to this point? I had no idea, but we got there. So it's just like I said, we're running out of stuff to talk about. You know, the NFL draft's gone.
Well,
we're gonna talk.
I've brought this up a couple times too. I'm just super excited for the Raptors. They just disrespected us this year. You know, we're the defending champs. Unless somebody takes it from you, you're still the champ. And you know, like what did Toronto do? The injuries this year in Toronto was unreal. Well, they're not just them, but the Raps really showed me something this year. I was geared up, Eric. I was pumped for the playoffs. We're getting healthy again, and you know, like until they take the I don't want to say Lombardi, but the Larry B from us, we're the champs. We the North, bitches. We the North.
So preview for next week, we're going to talk about the MLSE and the Toronto FC. That's a lie. Yeah, we're not soccer guys. That's one sport you can almost guarantee that we won't really touch on because we don't have any idea about soccer. No idea. Trevor coached. Yeah, Trevor used to play it.
And I
coach girls.
That was pretty good.
But I don't think on a professional level, I don't think we're going to offer much insight on that stuff. So
I had one championship team and one loser team. You know, I'm sorry, girls, but that's the facts.
That's the facts, Jack.
You know, see, we peaked too high, Eric, too early, right? First year, just domination. Second year, holy, I couldn't buy a goal. Oh.
Well, before we get on that, like I said, if you guys haven't yet, go like, go share, go subscribe, go, you know, follow us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating, Spotify, give us a follow, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all this stuff, right? Just follow us anywhere you can. We just really appreciate it.
We would.
We're just trying to pump out as much content as possible, and we're just having fun with it.
Exactly. We're doing our own thing,
takes,
people. Some people aren't going to like it, but we are who we are.
It takes us anywhere from an hour to usually 2 hours. This is actually like an hour and a half, so we're actually doing pretty good. We also didn't really have topics to talk about, so we still talked an hour and a half about nothing.
We could talk all day. Like, you know, we're gonna talk a little bit about Tampa here shortly, soon too. I can't wait to get into that because, you know, if the NHL doesn't come back this year, Tampa, like I already mentioned to Eric, is a little teaser for another episode. They're going to have to trade some of their contracts. Now they're in trouble. That's
actually a teaser that will actually work. Unlike the Toronto FC or MLSE or any of that stuff, Tampa Bay, a highlight on them is going to be coming here in the future. You know, same with a couple other things. Like I said, we have a lot of stuff that we plan on talking about. This episode, we just said,
we'll get there.
We'll get there. This one, we'll just keep it less serious.
Are you kidding me? Great episode. We talked about Baltimore. Talked about Kansas City. Shout out to the champs. Great hair.
Yeah. Great hair. Great beards.
Great beards. You know?
So
shout out to the Jayhawks. Love you, boys.
The Eskimos. The Eskimos. There you go. Yep. So anyways, we're going to call it there. Like I said, thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. And hope to catch you on the next one. So for Eric and Trevor, this is us signing off.